I remember when I was about, I want to say maybe 12, maybe 13. And the first time I ever saw a show called Electric Playground, which some of you may know of, and its spin off reviews on the run, hosted by two guys, Victor Lucas and Tommy Tallarico. And I thought that was really cool because at the time I'd never seen a show like that. It was two guys who were talking about games, reviewing games, even playing them, something that we're pretty familiar with now, especially on YouTube, but on television at the time, like this was something for me completely foreign and brand new. And I thought, oh my God, this is their job? That's amazing. But it was the first time I'd ever learned of Tommy Tallarico and had no idea that I'd been playing video games with his music in it for quite a few years up to that point. And it would be another, let's see, maybe eight or 9 years before I'd actually meet the man in person. At the time, I was in college and I had to do a project for my radio class, and I decided to try and get an interview with him because Video Games Live was coming to town, and I thought, hey, you know what? This could be a really unique opportunity to interview someone who's in the music industry, but a different part of it, focusing on video game music. And at first, I just thought, you know what? What's the point? Why should I even reach out to this guy, to this company? Like, they're not going to listen to me. I'm just some kid who's trying to do a project for his class. And then a friend of mine named Dave said, you know what? Ask him. What's the worst he can do? Say no? And I'm like, well, you're right. The worst he could do is say no. And what's going to change? My life isn't going to be destroyed by that. It's just, okay, move on. So I did, and fortunately he said yes. And we did an interview over Skype because they were overseas at the time, or actually in South America. And then when they came to town, did one in person live, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. It was really interesting, and also I guess a little cliff note to this episode is that no matter what, if you want to ask a question to anyone about almost anything, whether it's a date, an interview, I really honestly, the things you could ask are endless. The worst someone can do is say no, and if they do, exactly like I said, oh well, move on with your day. No harm, no foul. But anyways, all of this coming to the interview that we had in person when they were setting up for the show that night. And it was really interesting because Tommy Tallarico is a guy who's very passionate about his craft, the music, the video game industry. How he got into it is something I could talk about for a long, long time. And actually, you know what? After this, I think I'm going to try and dig up the audio project I did with the clips from the interview that I conducted and see about throwing them up on the channel. It's around somewhere. I just got to track it down. Anyway, all of this to say that during the interview, he said something that stuck with me since, and something that ties in really well to what I talked about in the previous episode about how video games are a medium without equal, how they can bring you in a way that nothing else can. And a big part of that is the sound, the music. There's cues when you open a door, when you go into battle. Even the absence of sound is something, like when there's just background music and all of a sudden you enter an area and the music stops. It's gone. There's just pure silence. And maybe the only thing that you can hear is your own footsteps or the sound of your own breath or your own heartbeat. And it changes the atmosphere right away with the inclusion or even the absolute absence of music, of sound. And I'm paraphrasing here, but Tommy Tallarico said if Beethoven were alive today and doing music, he wouldn't want to be doing music for film or for television because people would be talking over it. He says, I think he'd be a video game composer because it's all about that immersion, that experience, having music impact people in obvious and very subtle ways at the same time. And after that interview, it gave me a real appreciation for sound and music in a game. In fact, I'm still working my way through Undertale right now. And one thing that I've noticed going through it, and I'm pretty sure I'm not even halfway through that game yet, the music in that game doesn't really change. at least from what I can tell so far, it's basically the same tune with very subtle differences. Like maybe there's a change in tone, in pitch, in the speed. What is that? The tempo? I think. I'm not 100% sure. But it seems like most of the music in the areas that I've been through so far all build off of the same foundation, the same sound and tune, which is really interesting. At the same time, going through games, the emotional stings, like in Shadow of the Colossus, it's very melodic, it's very, very melancholy and romantic, but sad. Even before you reach the end of that story, right off the bat, the way the game presents itself musically, it's a sad story. It's romantic, but you already get the impression that things may not go exactly as the hero wants them to, or at least not as how he predicts. And in The Last of Us, anyone who's played that game knows, I think within like the first 10 minutes of that game, when when Joel's daughter dies, there's a great, very simple, but a very great musical sting that happens, and it hits you in the gut. Like if you don't feel something in that scene with the acting, the emotion, the reaction, and the music all coming together to create this just heart-wrenching gut punch, I don't know, you're dead inside or something, because that hits me every time. I played this game a lot, and every time I get to that part, I got to take a moment and just sort of sit there and go like, okay, that was kind of heavy. Take a knee, shake it off. Okay, let's keep going. But I can't just work through it. I got to stop for a second because it hurts. But again, I don't think it would have the same sort of punch if the music wasn't there, if it was just pure silence. It just wouldn't fit. For some scenes, silence is perfect. It's golden. It makes the scene because suddenly there's a part of that scene that's missing and it fits with whatever's going on at the time. But again, other times with the scene I just mentioned, the absence of music wouldn't feel right. It would make it feel awkward. It would lose a bit of its weight. All of this to say that, again, video games really are a medium without equal because they bring all of these elements together in such a way that it can evoke that kind of emotional response out of you. It can make you sad. It can make you cry. It can make you really happy when, the heroes achieve success, when you achieve success. It can make you smile. It can make you laugh. It can shock you. It can scare you. But it's hitting you personally. It's not hitting you, again, as a passive audience member. It's hitting you. Sitting there, taking part in the experience right then and there. And again, with with that statement by Tommy Talrico, definitely gave me a greater appreciation for the power of music overall and how integral it is to crafting a truly well-rounded game. Yeah, I think that's all I had to say on that. And again, I know it's around somewhere. I will try and track down that piece that I created, because I think even now it still holds up. It's pretty good. It was an early audio project, but still, I think as interviews go, that one was good. Actually, geez, what am I saying? Yeah, it was good. I got an award for it at my school, so I must have done something right? Anyway, once again, if you have any comments, suggestions, anything you'd like to share on the subject, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And if you've been enjoying the series so far, let me know. If there's any improvements I can make, let me know that too. And if you feel there are other people out there who might enjoy it, by all means, share it with anybody you want. And until next time, my name's Rye. You take care of yourselves.